بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلي وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد تفسير السعدي بن عبد الرحمن بن ناصر السعدي رحمه الله تفسير سورة ياسين ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم تنزل قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون هذا والأكثرين فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أغنى خيارهم فهم وحجنا من بين يديهم عاكين فهم لا يبصرون والسلام عليهم عند تمنهم لا يؤمنون من تبع ذكرى وخشي الرحمن بالغيب واشهد بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثرهم وكل شيء أحسنه في إمام مبين. أي نعم. By the Quran full of wisdom, verily you, Muhammad, are indeed one of the messengers, and you are on a straight path. This Quran is revelation sent down by the Almighty, the Most Merciful, so that you may warn people whose fathers were not warned, hence they are unaware. The decree of punishment is inevitable for most of them, for they will never believe. Verily it is if we have placed iron collars around their necks, right up to their chains, so that their heads are forced up. We have placed a barrier in front of them and a barrier behind them, blocking their vision so that they cannot see. It is the same to them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. You can only warn those who follow the remainder, the Quran, and fear the most gracious unseen. So give them the glad tidings of forgiveness and a generous reward. But it is we who will give life to the dead. We record what they sent forth and what they leave behind, and we keep an account of all things in a clear book. Here Allah swears an oath by the Quran full of wisdom, meaning that it puts everything in its right place and gives commands and prohibitions for clear reasons in an appropriate context, and to describe the requital for good or evil as is appropriate in the right context. So it commands and prohibitions, and its criminal code, which dictates requital and punishment, are based on utmost wisdom. One way in which the wisdom of this Quran is manifested is that it mentions together the ruling and the wisdom behind it, thus drawing the attention of rational people to the context and the circumstances that relate to the determination of the ruling concerning the matter. Verily, you, O Muhammad, are indeed one of the messengers. This is the fact concerning which the oath is sworn, namely the message of Muhammad ﷺ. In other words, you, O Muhammad ﷺ, are one of the messengers, so you are not without precedent among the messengers. Moreover, you have brought the same messages as the other messengers brought in terms of basic religious principles. Furthermore, anyone who reflects upon the character and description of the messengers and understand the difference between them and others will realize that you are one of the best of the messengers because of the perfect qualities and virtuous characteristics that you possess. The connection between the object by which they all is sworn, namely the Quran full of wisdom, and the deen that is confirmed by the oath, namely the message of the messenger Muhammad ﷺ, is not hidden. If there was nothing to confirm his message and no witness to testify to it, this Quran is full of wisdom that will have been sufficient evidence and is testimony to the credibility of the message of Muhammad ﷺ. Indeed, the Holy Quran is the strongest evidence that has remained down throughout the ages of the truth of the message of the Messenger ﷺ. All the evidence of the Quran is evidence that support the message of Muhammad ﷺ. Then Allah tells us of the greatest characteristic of Messenger ﷺ, which supports his message, namely the fact that he is on a straight path, a moderate path that leads to Allah and to his paradise. The straight path includes deeds which are righteous deeds that will rectify one's condition both spiritually and physically and lead to the best outcome in this world and the hereafter. And virtuous characteristics that purify one's soul and bring reward. This is the straight path that which is the description of the Messenger and of the religion that he brought. Served upon the majestic nature of this honorable Quran, and how it combines swearing by the most honorable of beings to confine the most honorable being, which one may alone are sufficient. But he established clear proof and definitive evidence in this context in order to prove the soundness of the deen. He saw this ought to confirm nearly the truth of the message of his Messenger. This straight path is a revelation sent down by the Almighty, the Most Merciful. The book was revealed to describe and call people to the straight path, and it was revealed to show the way by which his slaves may reach him. So he protected it by his might from the change and alteration, and means of it he granted mercy to his slaves. that will stay with them until it brings them to the realm of His mercy, namely paradise. Hence, the verse ends with these two divine names: the Almighty, the Most Merciful. Having sworn to the truth of His message and established proof for it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now speaks of the great need for it and the necessity thereof, so that you may warn of people whose forefathers were not warned, hence they are unaware, they had remained without any scriptures, and had received no messengers, they had been overwhelmed by ignorance and were submerged in misguidance, and they had become a laughing stock to all other people because of their foolishness. So Allah sent to them a messenger from themselves to purify them and teach them the book and wisdom, although before that they had been fully misguided. He came to warn the unlettered Arabs and all other unlettered nations, and to remind them of the book of what they had of previous creatures. It is a blessing that Allah bestowed upon the Arabs in particular and upon others in general. But after you, Muhammad warned those people among whom you were sent, they divided into two categories, the first of which rejected the message he brought and not pay heed to the warning. They are the ones of whom Allah says, the decree of punishment is inevitable for most of them, for they will never believe. That is the divine decree which is inevitable, decree that they will persist in their belief. An ascription of Allah to Allah, the decree only became inevitable concerning them after the truth was presented to them, but they rejected it. Then they were punished by the sealing of their hearts. Then Allah mentions the experiment that prevented faith from reaching their hearts. But let us, if we have placed iron collars around their necks, and these iron collars that are around their necks are means reaching up to their chins, and pushing their heads upwards, so that their heads are forced up and they cannot lower them. We have placed a barrier in front of them and a barrier behind them. It is a barrier that prevents them from blocking their vision, so that they cannot see, because they have been overwhelmed by ignorance and doom on all sides. So the warning is of no avail for them. It is the same to them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. How can a person believe when his heart has been sealed up and he sees truth as false and falsehood as true? The second category of people are those who pay heed to the warning, whom Allah mentions in the following verse. You can only warn, that is, the only ones who will benefit from your warning and pay heed to your advice are those who follow remain at the Quran, that is, those whom aim is to follow the truth and what they are reminded of in the Quran, and fear the most gracious and sin, that is, it is those who have these two characteristics: good intention in seeking the truth and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will benefit from your message and will be purified by following your teachings. Whoever attains these two things, give them the glad tidings of forgiveness of their sins and a generous reward for their righteous deeds and good intentions. But it is we who will give the life to dead, that is, who will resurrect them after they are dead in order to requite them for their deeds. We record what they sent forth of good or evil. This refers to the deeds that but it is we who will give life to dead, that is, we will resurrect them after they are dead in order to requite them for their deeds. We record what they sent forth of good or evil. This refers to the deeds that they do during their lifetime, and what they leave behind. This refers to the legacy of good or evil of which they were the cause during their lifetime and after their death. The deeds that resulted from their words, actions, and conduct. Every good deed that anyone does because of a personal knowledge, teaching and advice, or because of his enjoining what is right or forbidding what is wrong, or because of knowledge that he taught, or to seekers of knowledge, or knowledge that he left behind in books from which people benefited during his life and after his death. Or any good deed that he did, such as prayer, zakah, charity, or acts of kindness, in which others followed his example, or any mosque that he built, or any faculties that he set up, from which people benefit, and so on, is among the legacy that he leaves behind, is recorded for him. The same applies in the case of evil deeds. Hence, whoever acts a good precedent will have the reward thereof, and a reward equal to that of those who act upon it until the day of resurrection. And whoever set a bad precedent will have the burden of sin thereof, and a burden of sin equal to that of those who act upon it until the day of resurrection. Muslim. These highlight the high status of one who calls people to Allah and guides them to His path by all possible means. and the low status of one who calls people to evil and leads others therein. The latter is one of the worst of people, who is guilty of the most worst crime and gravest sin, and we keep an account of all things, deeds, intentions, and so on, in a clear book that is in matter of all books, on which all other books that are in the hands of the angels are based, namely Allah al-Mahfud. وأدوا لهم مثل أصحاب القيد جاء المرسلون إذا أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فأخذنا بثالث فقال إن إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنكم إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إن طيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم ونصيبنا عذاب أليم قالوا طيركم معكم أين ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أكثر المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين أتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني بالرحمن بضر لا تغنيني شفاعتهم بشيء ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخلوا الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بغفر ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. Present to them the example of the people of the city when the messengers come to it. When we sent two messengers to them, they rejected them. So we supported them with that. They said, "Verily, we have been sent to you as messengers." The people said, "You are but human beings like ourselves, and the most gracious has not sent down in revelation. You are simply lying." They said, "Our Lord knows what we have sent to you as messengers, and our duty is only to convey the message in the clearest way." The people said, "We regard you as an evil omen. If you do not resist, we will surely stone you, and will inflict a painful punishment on you." They said, "Your evil omen is with you because of your disbelief. Are you saying this because you have been admonished? You are indeed a people who are transgressing beyond all depths." A man came rushing from the farthest part of the city and said, "O my people, follow the messengers. Follow those who ask no recompense of you and who are rightly guided. Why should I not worship him who created me and to whom you will be brought back? Should I take the other gods besides him? If the most gracious wills that some adversity will befall me, then the children will not avail me at all, nor can they deliver me. In that case, I will indeed be clearly misguided. Verily, I believe in your Lord, so hear me." It was said to him, "Enter paradise." He said, "Would that my people knew, as my Lord has forgiven me and placed me among the honored ones." Present to them the example of the people of the city when the messengers come to it, that is, give an example to these people who reject your message and your call, from which they may learn a lesson, and which may be an exertion from which they may benefit if Allah so wills. The example is the people of the city and what happened to them of punishment when they reject the messengers of Allah. If there was any benefit in the city in question, Allah will have identified it, discussing that and similar issues come under the healing of wasting time and effort and speak without knowledge. Hence, if anyone speaks of such matters, you will find him speculating and saying confusing and contradictory things that do not lead into any conclusion. If you see anyone doing that, you should realize that the path to sound knowledge is to be content with the fact that and turn away from discussing that which is of no benefit. Thus, the seeker of knowledge will maintain purity of thought, and his knowledge will increase. This is in contrast to the ignorant person who thinks that his knowledge will increase by referring to views and ideas that have no base or proof and are of no benefit, and in fact they only lead to confusion and distraction, and leave one open to accepting doubtful matters. The point is that Allah mentions the city by way of example to those addressed here, namely Quraysh, when the messengers came to it from Allah to command them to worship Allah alone and devote their worship solely to Him, and to forbid them to ascribe partners to Him and commit sin. When we sent two messengers to them, they rejected them, so we supported them with a dad. That is, we strengthened them with a dad, so they became the messengers as a sign of Allah's care for the people of that city, and so as to establish clear proof by the coming of messengers one after another. They said to the people, "Verily we have been sent to you as messengers." But the people responded in a manner that is still well known among those who reject the call of the messengers. The people said, "You are but human beings like ourselves. But that is, when what makes you better than us, and why were you chosen to be messengers instead of us?" The messengers said to the nations, "Indeed, we are but human beings like ourselves, but Allah bestows His favors upon whoever He wills of His slaves, and the most gracious has not sent down any revelation." In other words, they denied the concept of a message from Allah. Then they rejected the ones to whom they were speaking and said, "You are simply lying." These three messengers said, Our Lord knows what that we have been sent to you as messengers. If you are lying, Allah will have caused us disgrace and will have listed the punishment to us. And our duty is only to convey the message in the clearest way, that is, in the way that will explain the matters that need to be explained. Everything apart from that, such as the signs that you demand and swift punishment, is not up to us, rather what is required of us, which is to convey the message clearly. We have done and we have explained it to you. If you are guided, then that is your good fortune. But if you are misguided, then there is nothing to do with us. The people of the city say to the messengers, We regard you as an evil omen. That is, we do not think that you are coming to us and you are contacting us for good anything but evil. That is something very strange, to regard those who come to them with the greatest blessing that Allah could bestow upon His slaves, and the greatest honor that He could give them. Their need, for which supplies all other needs, as something evil which will exacerbate that the bad situation they were already in, and to view it through a lens of superstition. But this is the sign of the failure and misguidance that harms a person more than his enemies could. Then they issued a threat to them by saying, If you do not resist, we will surely stone you, that is, we will kill you by stoning, which is the worst kind of killing, and we will inflict a painful punishment on you. The messenger said to them, Your evil omen is with you, and it was that they had followed this man evil will lead to calamity and punishment before falling them, and blessing and favors being taken away from them. Are you saying this because you have been admonished? That is, it is because we reminded you of that which is in your best interest, and it will bring you good fortune that you say to us what you said. You are indeed a people transgressing beyond all bounds and overstepping the mark in what you say. But their call to them only increased them in aversion and arrogance. A man came rushing from the furthest part of the city, keen to advise his people. When he heard what the messengers called them to, and he believed in it, and realized what his people's response to them was, hence he said to them, O people, follow the messengers, instructed them and advised them to follow them, La ilaha illallah, and testified that they were indeed messengers. Follow those who ask no recompense of you, that is, follow those who give you advice that will bring you good, and who do not want your wealth or any recompense for advising you and guiding you, for this makes it incumbent upon you to follow those who are like that. There is only one argument left, which is the idea that perhaps a messenger may call people and ask any recompense for that, but is not calling the truth. So he warded off this notion by saying, and who are rightly guided, because they were only calling to something of which sound reason testify to its beauty and goodness, and they were not forbidding anything of which sound reason does not testify to its ugliness and badness. It is as if his people did not accept his advice, rather they began to criticize him for following the messengers and worshipping Allah alone. Therefore he said, Why should I not worship him who created me and to whom you will be brought back? That is what is there to prevent me from worshipping the one who is truly deserving of worship, because he is the one who originated me, created me, grants me provision, and to him is the return of all creatures. Then he will requite them for their deeds. He is the one in whose hand are creation and provision and judgment between people in this world and the hereafter. Therefore he is the only one who deserves to be worshipped, praised and glorified, to the exhaustion of those who possess no power, no benefit or harm, to give or withhold, give life, cause death or resurrect. Hence he said, Should I take other gods besides him? If the most gracious wills that some adversity should befall me, the intercession will not avail me at all, because no one can intercede with Allah except by his leave. So the intercession will not avail me at all, and they cannot save me from the harm if Allah wills for me. In that case, if I worship gods that are like that, I will indeed be clearly misguided in these words. This man compared to advise testimony is the truth, the messengers and the path of guidance. The statement that is essential to worship Allah alone and the worship of all others is false, mentioning the proof for the broad statement, and those who worship false gods are misguided and open declaration of his faith, even though he was very afraid that they could kill him. Hence he said, But I believe in your Lord, so hear me. But they killed him when they heard what he said to them. To say to him straight away, Enter paradise. He said something that was indicative of the level of honor he attained for his affirmation of the oneness of Allah, his devotion and his sincerity towards his people after his death, as he has been sincere towards them when he was still alive. Would that my people knew how my Lord has forgiven me, has saved me from all kinds of punishment, and placed me among the honored ones with all kinds of reward and pleasures. In other words, if knowledge of that reached their hearts, they will not persist in the ascription of partners to Allah.